Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the La Cantina MX Football Podcast, episode 377. Going to be recapping the week we were off. Some questionable finish with Mexico and Jamaica in the Conca Champion or the Nations League, rather. And we also went back into football action. Liga MX, Chivas versus Atlas. And Alexis Vega just needs to be staying off these interviews, man, because he's saying a lot of stuff that's just making him look bad. Also, Nacho Ambriz was on Fútbol Picante, had some thoughts, some statements that he put out that we want to talk about. That and much more that we're going to be unpacking tonight, live on Twitter Spaces, of course, and YouTube. So be there. Make sure to request to speak if you want to say something. But before I go any further, let me welcome my good friend Joel to the podcast. Joel, how we doing?
I'm doing good, Jaime. Lots of football news to cover.
A lot to unpack, man. Yeah. Glad that we're back on Twitter Spaces. Appreciate everyone hopping on tonight. Obviously, we will be able to let you guys speak up. Just let us debrief for a little bit, and we'll let you guys hop on and say what you need to say. Starting with Diego Coca, we did have that match against Suriname. We talked about that, but then he had another match against Jamaica at home and in El Azteca where they were unable to get a victory. They tied 2-2, and everything was said. The fans started booing Ochoa at one point in the match, and everyone's frustrated with the national team. They're not happy, and I don't know. Do you think that they went a little bit too far in El Azteca that night?
No, that's always been a mistake. And it was a talking point early on in this pod when we started way back that Mexico had lost their home field advantage, and they needed to go to another stadium where they were going to have that fan support. Azteca people, man, they want the three G's: ganar, golear, y gustar. And if you're not giving them something good, after 15 minutes, they start throwing the rotten tomatoes and the eggs. They seem to turn on the selección pretty quick, and that's all. That's I'd say that's been the case for a really long time. Um, so yeah, I think that whole because selección went, I think, 20 years or something like that. I don't know. They had a very long streak of undefeated, and for a long time too, they would just demolish opponents, especially from Central America, Caribbean. They'll go there, but a lot of these teams they learn how to play at Azteca. They learn how to combat the altitude, travel that day off, or travel 2 days ahead and stay at X place. They kind of figured it out. Uh, and then a lot of the seleccionados, you know, aren't used to play there anymore. A lot of them are in Europe, so they come back and they're like, it's gonna affect them just as much as the opponents. But yeah, the whole fans turning on, that's that's been going on for a long time. I don't know why FMS is like dead set on Azteca. I don't know if there's some contract. I don't know what's going on right there.
Yeah, I mean, I think for unfortunately a long time now, Yano Pesai, it's the Azteca used to be an intimidating place to go to. You started to tremble, start shaking in your boots when you found out you had to play in an Azteca, and it just doesn't carry that same weight anymore. Not sure if it's correlated with just the way Mexico has been performing in the last 10 years, but the fan is fickle. They'll start out before the match, singing the national anthem, making it roar in there. First couple minutes, you start doing the ole and the wave and the cielito lindo. And then, as soon as it didn't really last long because 7 minutes in, Jamaica scored. And immediately, the crowd just got very, very upset and aggressive. Orbelin Pineda tied it up 17 minutes later. But then an own goal by Edson Alvarez. And Ochoa getting booed out, and it's just like, all right, it's time to change venues. We already spend most of our matches outside of Mexico, right? Like they rarely have matches in Mexico unless it's an official like tournament. But for the most part, like they've had a lot of friendlies in the United States. And I do think it's time for them to, rotate it. Maybe go to Monterrey, where the fans like pay
Yeah,
top dollar and have really good attendance. That's another thing too. I think it should be awarded to the venue that has the best attendance in regular season. And if I'm not mistaken, I think that's Tigres. I think Tigres have some of the best attendance in regular season. So I think they need to start rewarding stadiums that way. And that way you can encourage like, fans to go and support their team.
it's true. It's true. I mean, I'm guessing the whole Televisa angle because they own Azteca. Well, they don't. Do they own? Do they own the stadium? I can't remember. Um, but that's kind of been their home base, and I guess their whole production thing is already set up. I think I would say that kind of plays into it. They have already their studios and whatnot, everything set up for them, pre-game, post-game.
So what you're trying to say is they have a nice spread in the suites.
That too, man. They get the juiciest pick, you know. So I would say that that's part of it as well. But you would, well, we should want to see some pressure from the other club owners and in this regard, or at least what their take is, because yeah, we haven't really seen. Like, think when's the last time Mexico, put the hurt on a team at Azteca,
It's a good
like in
question.
an official match? Like off the top of your head, can you remember? Like, I remember they beat the U.S. in 93, no, 90, what was it, 90, damn,
Well,
93, I
the
think, the Gold Cup.
the
It's like,
the Azteca, you know, that's that started to happen with Chepo's tenure.
oh, Ron, come on now.
No, it's true. I mean, that's when you started to see. That's when you really started to see the opposing teams playing the bunker
No, Bora,
and
go back to
pumping the bus.
Bora. You go back to 96. Bora Milutinovic and Costa
No,
Rica tied
no,
them 3-3.
no.
The U.S. took out a draw from there.
What about
That's
Ojitos
96.
Ojitos Mesa? I mean, wasn't the Aztecaso
Oh,
I mean,
during
dude.
you were
I
still
keep.
beating teams like even Ojitos Mesa was still beating teams like Panama and stuff like that, 6-0, 7-0. Trinidad and Tobago 7-0 and stuff like that.
I'm gonna have to pull the numbers there, Ron, because
Wait, but the Aztecaso was under Ojos, no? Ojitos
Yeah,
Mesa?
that was it was in 2001.
Ron's narrative falling apart. There's see, and you're blaming my Chepo there, dude. Nah, his, his,
That
his,
that's
his
when they
start was
that's
bad.
when they that
He's
His
like,
start was bad, but
you can
yeah,
offend my
you could
mother,
go.
but don't talk about Chepo.
Ron, what's going on there? Sounds like you're
He's
deep
underwater.
sea diving. He's like SpongeBob. He's,
Ron sounds like he's swimming in it right now.
what, what's going on here? All right,
There you go.
all right. No, but no, that's when I noticed the teams really
much
learning
better.
how to adapt to playing Mexico at the Azteca Stadium.
Yeah,
And Chepo was just too stubborn, with how he planted the games and stuff like that. So, I mean, that's kind of like, but I think it's a combination of many things because prior to La Volpe, remember, after La Volpe, that's when you started to see more players play in Europe.
Hmm.
So, I mean, those guys were playing, uh, that's when you had Salcido and Maxa and Osorio and Pardo and stuff like that after La Volpe. So, I mean, you started to have more players playing in Europe and then having to come to Mexico to play friendlies or World Cup qualifiers. It's like they were also exposed to the same
Disadvantages.
issues
Yeah,
disadvantages of playing, playing in the heat, playing in the
altitude.
altitude, all
Yeah,
that stuff.
With the
That's-
Heat too, Ron, because of the TV, like they took away those midday games, and now they're all at night.
yeah. That's another thing too. We don't even play like 2-hour advantages anymore. Yeah, it's a sad thing. And, my question to you guys is we have a couple of matches coming up against the United States. One of them is a prestigious cup hosted by Allstate. We know how prestigious that is. And then the other one is going to be in the Nations League semifinal. So, do you think, depending on these results, would Dale Coca be kicked out the door if we happen to get embarrassed by United States?
I think they're holding him until the Gold Cup. I don't think they'll put him for that one. But I mean, you said embarrassed. So embarrassed would have to mean they wash Max, like they completely dominate, and like complete embarrassment. Just losing. It's also how did you lose, right? Tata lost those games, and it was like very even games. Um, Games where even Max could have won had they been you know had better strikers. But losing on a golden goal on penalties, I wouldn't say that's embarrassing.
Yeah. I think the match, maybe not in April, doesn't really hold much weight, but getting eliminated in the semifinals of the Nations League, I think might do him in.
Hey, but it's the U.S. It's not like and it's a team that's been pretty even with Mex for a long time. Hey, I was telling you guys
But
last time
you
Mexico
lost three
squashed
games.
them.
You lost 3 games to the U.S. You lost,
Technically, two were draws. And the last time I was it when's the last time Mex really beat the U.S. like put
That Gold
like
Cup
that
final.
5-0 under Vasco, and then the 4-2 under Chepo,
And then we
and
had
then what?
a we
That's
had a 2-0 against when we had
no. It has to be more than two
Osorio.
goals, man. It has
No,
to be.
but it was in it was in Columbus. That was a pretty big win.
Well, yeah, because the first time
Hmm.
winning that, yeah, yeah. But if you see the results, it's been pretty even. Uh, so I mean, I don't know why it's you know all of a sudden it was suspected of Max to just completely steamroll over them, and if it doesn't happen, the team's not doing good, or they caught up, or they're gonna surpass, and that seems to be the narrative. But it it's further from that.
Those are must win matches for the Okoka. If he loses both of those matches, I cannot see anyone allowing him to coach much longer than that. I'm being serious, bro. Like the fans,
No,
o-
yeah, I agree. I
obviously,
agree.
obviously, like losing or tying to get Jamaica at home, like you already saw how the fans reacted to that, and then losing twice to the United States. Luckily, those matches are here in the states, right? They're not going to be in Mexico, but still, man, like I think
I,
they just
I think Jaime's right, man. Because I mean, did you guys watch a couple days ago the picante with
Ambris.
Nacho?
We were going to talk
Yeah.
about
I
that,
did.
but yeah,
Yes, sir.
So
Good
I mean,
segue.
I just don't think that a lot of people are on board with Coca. I don't think anybody has. I don't think there's a lot of people in the media that are protecting him, because that's sometimes that was the case where you had certain networks or certain people protecting a certain coach, uh, and basically carrying their water for them, when things would go sour. I don't see that with Boca, and I
yeah,
think Herman's right. If he loses these 2 games with the U.S., I think they're gonna basically get him out of there.
yeah,
Yeah, and I think in a lot of it, not so much just because the U.S., but because of all the bad stuff, all the bad juju carried over from the previous cycle. It's
Yeah,
already like tied. Uh, it's the black cloud that followed into this one, and
It's
so
the Argentina
it,
cloud.
the Argentina cloud. Tata, that's true. Like, brought another like a Wicker Man. It's like the Wicker Man. They just have Tata to burn him, dude. That, that could be that'll be the limpia. That'll be the limpia Mexico needs, and then they could
Yeah, I mean,
probably
again,
get it.
I don't, I don't see Coca having that protection in the media. You know, I
Yeah.
really don't. And it's funny. I thought it was funny with Nacho Ambriz that all he forgot to show the higher ups his Spanish passport.
Yeah. Hey, Nacho went in, bro. He wouldn't hold back, and that was another thing too. Is like, why now, right? Like, Dio Cuca's not off to a great start, and all of a sudden you're bringing in Nacho Ambriz to the media and trying to put him in a good light, and he has a platform to speak, and he's saying that the Mexican player is complaining and doesn't have the same desire to represent their country, and he was talking about all his his accomplishments and how he mentioned that
It's just a lot of people
that he's
a lot of people
darker
are
skinned. What's that?
no, but here's the thing, it's not even just about that. It's just right now, Mexican soccer in general, just both at the club and national team, is in decline. I posted something that what's her name, Fabiana Stais, yeah, Fabiana
Ah,
Stais
yes,
Fabian
good
Stein.
quote.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's in like he was talking about back in his day there was 3 4 foreigners and that was it. Now you have 8 to 9, and you had that filter. Because back then the clubs had to really watch who they were spending their money on, and I mean he was just talking about that you don't have that filter because you don't have it's like you just have
He
tougher
also
competition.
Quality over
This is that
quantity.
the
Exactly.
competition within the team to maintain your spot. He said because he said since there was very little foreigners, there was always the other ones trying to come up, including Mexican players. So he
Yeah.
said you had to bust your balls to remain there. Yeah, and what we see now is like they'll bring up to 5
And
foreigners at
it's funny
once.
because I mean I've even heard like people talk like Carlos Reynoso talk about this. They say that the media will say that Club America they're good because of foreign players, but Reynoso would say I said Club America has always had very good Mexican players, and and they were just complemented by having good foreign players as well. And I just think that right now the league is just they're not scouting properly. Uh, I just like I said I think it's from top to bottom and from bottom up. Just things aren't looking good, and it sucks to say. I think all the hard work that the league had done in the past 30 years, going from like Copa America like '93 going up, it just went to shit.
Yeah, it's become too much of a business. The selling the players, and there's a
Yeah.
lot of how do you say money laundering involved. So the player doesn't even need to be good.
No.
That's just what they're gonna use, and so that's why we'll see sometimes the teams they'll get all these players, and some of them won't even suit up. Like
Yeah.
they're announced, and then I forgot which news outlet, and they had a list of foreigners that didn't even get to put on the jersey, and it was like going team by team. Man, I wish I would have kept that. It is like long list who
No.
of
uh,
who.
yeah. I mean, and like everybody was involved: Pachuca, America, Cruz Azul. I mean, these guys.
Gutierrez, remember when they brought Gignac? They brought some dude called Enke or something like that.
Uh-huh.
I think he just made the team photo and that's it. I never, I didn't see him again, dude.
Yeah.
He just, he just arrived and then that's it.
Yeah, there's a lot of like Jeremy Menez, and they had some
Well,
other.
he got to play,
Yeah.
but I mean players that didn't even actually step on the field.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a few. There was like another French player that had joined, and he got like injured, and I don't know. He never really played. It was weird. Yeah, it's just one of those things that happens. Um,
Yeah. So like, I just like I think there's just a lot of I haven't seen the league this bad in like I said
Yo
in at least 2 decades.
Mhm.
You know,
I have a sound clip from Nacho. See if I can play it.
veo que le tengan un respeto a la camisa de la selección. Dos entrenadores me enseñaron que éramos generadores de alegrías y tristezas de un pueblo. Y eso cuando te lo metes a la cabeza, cuando te lo metes en el corazón, tienes que salir a partirte el alma. Y yo no veo eso. Hoy veo gente que dice, yo no voy, no me interesa. O veo declaraciones que es que la gente en vez de criticarnos no nos apoya. La gente está harta de no ver gente que se parta la mano. Si a mí yo no era el entrenador, que no lo fui, y a mí me requerían para ser auxiliar, yo le entraba. Y a nadie se lo he dicho, y no lo saqué a la opinión pública. Yo estaba dispuesto a ser auxiliar del entrenador que fuera para ayudar a México. Y eso que dice, es que te rebajas, no me rebajo. Porque no es por mí. O yo quería ayudar a algo que a mí me ha dado todo, Javier.
Old
That
school
really
mindset, you know?
it is. That little song though was throwing me off.
Oh.
Felt like an Avengers, like Marvel movie opening.
Yeah, you know, TikTok people like to add some flair to it. It's really annoying. But you know, he's been vocal in the last couple days about it, and you know, I think he dug a little bit about what Chicharo said about, oh, you know, like they don't support us and all that stuff, like complaining. And like, dude, you have no right to complain about like the fans not supporting you, bro. It's like they have a right to be part of this and have a stake in it and be able to be vocal about, you know, the performance of the team. And if they don't like something, then, you know, do something about it. That's the way I see it.
cue the viven en un country.
Yeah. Exactly.
Do that one in there. Cogen las mejores minas.
Yeah.
Manejan de un W para arriba. No, I think they. For me, that's almost as bad as what's his name, Marco Fabian saying, you know, when he was reading, remember that he was doing that press. Uh,
Oh, que no queremos gritos, queremos. What was it like?
No
it's
quería
like,
bucheos or
yeah, because they hurt
words hurt.
it hurt their feelings and
Yeah.
stuff like that. You know? That's almost as bad as that.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
actually really bad.
Actually, no, you're right. That was actually worse because I remember when that happened, they started basically, you know, it's like what a mental midget. It's like, you know, they need to have they need to have a Layun's mentality, where I mean, basically everybody just, you know,
Yeah, there
got
was a
on.
hashtag on him.
Yeah, todo culpa de Layun.
Yeah.
And it's like he needs to have that sort of thick skin and that sort of mentality where, you know what, you're gonna have to just overcome. But no, I think you know the whole thing that you guys need. Look, I get it. I mean, he's right. He's right that he said that sometimes the press does play a role, you know, you know, and obviously it's, you know, most of the time it's for clickbait, but you know they'll have a reporter take something out of context or will ask a question, and it's a loaded question with the intent of trying to stir controversy, right? I get that. I've seen that firsthand, you know. Uh, but that's where I think that's them being professionals. They need to be aware of that, and they need and not succumb to that, you know, to play to that game. But to say that, you know, they need to support them. The Mexican fan is one of the best fans in the world, if you really think
Yeah,
about it.
for real.
They travel the most too.
Like
Yeah,
for the World Cup, we always are like the top 3 as far as like tickets, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it's. I mean, they'll risk going to the World Cup and not being able to travel back. I mean, they'll sell their cars. They'll sell their, you know, they'll do anything to go.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, the Mexican fan is one of the, you know, the best fans in that regards.
Yeah, funny to talk about Marco Fabian. I saw him the other day playing against Atletico San Luis, and as soon as he came on, they started screaming "Borracho, borracho!" Just like, dude, man, that stuff never goes away. We actually had some Coca Champions League action today. Thanks for bringing that up, Ron, because I had no idea that was going on. And Philly
Uh,
got the best of Atlas today, huh?
yeah. Well, I didn't watch the entire game, but yeah, Atlas was playing a man down, and so I mean they were actually lucky to lose the game 1-0.
Oh,
So there, that was in Philly. I was actually going to go to the game, but some things came up, so I couldn't. Um, and then Leon beat the crap out of that team from Haiti. Forget their name, what the name is,
Violete.
something like that. Yeah, they beat them 5-0.
Pobres Haitanos, man.
Yeah, so
I wonder if they'll have the other leg in Haiti.
no, they actually made a comment about that in the transmission. They're saying that Haiti, for the most part, they both at the club and national team level, they play games. They'll cross the border into the Dominican Republic and
Oh,
use some of their facilities since they have better facilities there than they do in Haiti.
mm, yeah, makes sense. And we have Montagua versus Tigres tomorrow, and LAFC versus Vancouver to finish off the quarterfinals of this very prestigious Conca Champions League. Um, yeah, MLS having issues with adoption because now that they have the Apple TV exclusive rights, Apple's worried because they haven't seen people sort of hop onto the app and watch MLS matches. Not surprised there. Curious to see
Some of the
how.
streaming services.
Yeah, it's $15 a month, and that's very pricey
I
considering
know,
that.
but it adds up, and like we've talked about this, privately. It's like it's difficult now to watch the Mexican league.
Yeah,
You know, it's like you got to get. I mean, and sometimes, and I just think that that's just crazy. It's like Jesus, man. I liked it before, like 20 years ago when it's just with the Dish Latino dude, and
exactly.
boom, you were set.
Dish Latino had the jug, man. You could watch everything on that. You had Liga MX, Champions, Copa Libertadores. Like it had everything. You didn't have to worry about five, six different kind of subscriptions, and yeah, it's a shit show now. Curious to
It's
see with the Leagues Cup because that's also on Apple. So I wonder if they'll see an influx when that rolls off in the summertime. Maybe, maybe not.
uh, so we're gonna have to find a Facebook channel, huh? Like a feed.
All the new heads are using TikTok now. Um, I wanted to get your thoughts on what happened in that Leon America match. Obviously, a lot of controversy with the refereeing, and there was a fight that broke out, and Larcamon got his titty exposed. Like dude, it was pure chaos. And at one point, there was a clip going around on Twitter about the referee kneeing a player in the nuts. Man, what's going on, bro?
Well, I mean, honestly, the ref was provoked, and you can see the footage of him, of the player, kind of like he basically squared up to the ref, and you could see that his knee, that he kind of bumped his knee onto his knee, his leg, and obviously the ref responded by basically kind of like kind of kneeing him. Uh, it's a bad look. It's a poor look. But honestly, I think they finally came out with the punishment. So basically, the ref got 12 games. The Leon
Sheesh.
player got two. Yeah, the Leon player I think got 2 games, and the coaches also got two matches. Honestly, I thought that the player should have had the player should have gone more, because he's the one that instigated. Now, granted, I know that the ref is supposed to keep a cooler head, but I mean, if like let's just say my feeling is this: if the ref got 12, because technically he's the one, it's upon him to keep a cooler head, you know. But at least it should have been equal, you
What
know.
what happens to the during a match if a referee does that? Like, there's no other referee to give him a red card. Like, yo, you're out, bro. You just need someone in the nuts, dude. Like you've been.
No, that's where the every game there's always there's an FMF crew, right?
Uh huh.
There's a there's a federation crew, right? I forget the name of the title, but basically they're there to make sure the game, starts at the time it's supposed to start. And they're there to basically check on the teams, on the officiating crew. If there's an issue where, like, let's say, for whatever reason, and it's actually happened before in Mexican soccer, a referee getting hurt
Uh huh.
and stuff like that, and they can't continue for whatever reason. Basically, then that's where the fourth official will come in
Oh.
and finish. So, in the event for whatever reason, I don't. I'd have to check. I'm not sure, but I don't think that a ref has ever been uh,
Like barred.
expelled.
Yeah.
No, but during the game, I don't think that's ever happened. I'd have to check. I know that. Um, what's his name? Bonifacio. What's his name? Bonifacio. Oh shit. Oh, he's a ref from back in the like 20, 30 years back. Bonifacio. I forget his name. He's actually on TV every night. I forget what. I think he's on Fox, or he was on Fox. He was.
Bonificio Nunez Vega.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's the guy. He was a character, man. He was you know if you like Google him, or like look him up on YouTube and stuff like that, I think he was involved in a couple of those incidents.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. I know for sure if it were to ever happen in the world of football, it would have to be in Liga MX. We always have these crazy chaotic games.
No, believe it or not, there's actually been some videos of, like, usually like in Africa, or like in
Oh,
these.
well, they took it to the extreme. They have like guns and shit.
Yeah, I just saw one a couple months back where it was actually a women's league. I think it was in Nigeria, and the ref basically, he stood his ground, and the next thing you know, he was just getting chased by a mob of fucking angry women.
Oh my god, dude, that is
Yeah,
crazy. Yeah, in the end, that match ended up 2-2, and I don't know what set off the fight between the two coaches, but um, America's coach said that, hey, you can talk about everything, but don't talk about my mother. And then he just walks off.
yeah, I saw that.
I'm like, come on, bro, you're just gonna like, you gotta give us the sauce, gotta give us the juice. But the photo floating around with Lacamon and his shirt was like ripped off and his nipple was exposed. I'm like, damn, what the hell is happening, bro? Yeah, it was pretty chaotic. Then we had that was the warm up match for the main event, Atlas versus Chivas. Atlas hosting, and it was a pretty good match. Chivas were up 2-0 at one point, and then Wacho Jimenez decides to become the antagonist and make some very like clumsy mistakes and allows Atlas to climb back into the match. Before you know it, it's 2-2, and the momentum have shifted at halftime. Then Chivas respond again with another goal by Alexis Vega, and the fans decided to throw some beer at him, and he decided to drink it. Very unsanitary. And then Atlas tied it yet again, and Wacho Jimenez in the second half ended up becoming the savior of Chivas. Had an incredible second half. I've never seen a goalie be like so bad and so good at the same time. It's like very frustrating to watch. And yeah, I don't know. It was a pretty entertaining match overall, but yeah, Alexis Vega, man, he keeps having these questions, these interviews, and how he's talking about how, well, I grew up a Cruz Azul fan, and yeah, I went to the matches as a kid, and he's just not making himself like a fan of Chivas, and like a lot of fans look up to him. He's like a favorite player for a lot of fans, and when you say comments like that, it's just like, come on, bro, just stop talking, man. I don't know if Al Pastor has anything to add to that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the reality of modern day footballers. There's no more real love for the jersey. You rarely see that one club man like when Liga MX, with like Chapito Sanchez and players like that. You can tell players are more easily influenced by where the money's at, where it's convenient, the cities as well. I'm sure he wanted to make that move from Toluca to Guadalajara just to the lifestyle that Guadalajara offers. Maybe not so much being Chivas. Because I'm sure if he would have made the move to America, he would have said the same thing. This is the biggest club in Mexico. This is where I want to make history, where I want to be remembered as an idol. They're always just being politically correct. But now you get these behind the scenes and they express their mind, these podcasts, you really get to see you know, how they really are, and they're kind of soft. They're just like modern day players. They're just soft. They don't have that love for the jersey that you expect for them to have, and I think fans have to realize that too. It's like Manchester United fans when they had Jesse Lingard and Pogba doing TikToks, bro. You love the club more than these guys ever will. So
Yeah.
just keep that in mind when you're getting pissed at the result.
He needs to have like a, what do they call those people that like coach you before interviews and stuff? Like a PR person, bro. Like, hey, these are the things that you don't say. Like, this is gonna affect your image. And I don't know, dude just comes off as not a very intelligent guy. Got lucky enough to become a professional footballer, but yeah, I'm curious what his future looks like outside of football, because this guy's not making the smartest decisions on and off the field. And when you represent a club like Chivas, like you can't be talking about alternatives, or you can't be talking about any other team within Mexico. You can talk about the other European teams. We won't be as upset, but when you start talking about like, oh yeah, well, obviously, like I'm a professional, and if I was to get an offer and it was the only choice I had, like, yeah, I could see myself suiting up. Like, no, dude, you don't say that. Like, why would you say that? Why would you justify it? Just say no, man. I'm here. It's like I'm here for Chivas or I'm going to Europe. Like one or the other. That's it. And then if something happens where, Chivas end up selling you, then they're the bad guy and you're not. But you got to be loyal to your employer, man. That's the way I feel
Yeah,
about it.
no, I agree, and I think it's a reflection, like what Ron was saying, like with the Mexican game being in decline. Because I know Alexis just scored over the weekend, but if you look at Alexis, man, he's kind of been like this. Like he doesn't really do much. It's a lot of like step overs, gets past guys, dribbles past guys. But as far as like goals or assists, like key games, not much. With Selección, same thing. He's like the number 10 of Selección, and he doesn't really do much with Selección either. It makes him stand out. You go from having a Cuauhtemoc Blanco number 10, even a Ciña number 10, like talent that you feel like them literally throw the team on their back, and you're reduced to like Alexis Vega, where if he wasn't at Chivas, like if Alexis Vega was like at Puebla or something like Mazatlan, he'd probably still be playing the same level and people wouldn't be that hype about him. I think it's Chivas that gives him that
Yeah,
platform to
exactly.
people think that he's that great, when in reality he's kind of average right now.
Yeah, he's definitely average. I will say he's got more like tricks up his sleeve compared to Lightness. Like he can take free kicks, and he's a little bit more versatile on that. But I agree. Like overall, his career has been pretty much average. Hasn't been outstanding. It's not like he's carrying the team on his back anytime soon. If he ends up winning some silverware with Chivas, then you might be able to change the conversation. But as far as like, oh, is this guy a once in a generation talent? Like, not really, man. He's like Pina Ariano if he wasn't injured.
Correct. Like the way I see it, same thing. For him being like the number 10 for Mexico, the World Cup, it left a lot of desire. Still leaves a lot to desire. Even and if you win silverware with Chivas, he also has to be like an influential part of it. Now like Pocho and others
Hmm.
carrying more weight than him.
Joel, you've been like hopping in and out, man.
Yes.
You good?
I don't know. It booted me, but I'm back. Um, you guys being a bit harsh on Alexis. I'm gonna have to defend him. He
You
had
think he's a quality number 10, like for Selección compared to the
yes.
past number 10s?
Well, no, I'm not gonna go into the comparison. Um, but I'm gonna say keep in mind he's been injured. He's been injured for a long time, actually,
Okay,
and
but do you
and
feel like Cuauhtemoc, Osinha, those kind of guys, does he give you the same sense of
no,
security
I mean
as those guys?
that's
I'm
the
not
thing
saying talented, more
because
goals, more assists. Does he bring you
yeah,
the same confidence as a fan?
no, but that again is the whole comparison because we got to see a full career of those guys, where this guy still has some time to go, and he has been injured. And I forgot the player. It's a Chile player that has a podcast, and he had him on. Um,
No,
do you,
Angulo, yeah, but I'm not hating on Vega because, like the comment I said before that, tying it with Ron said, the Mexican game is in decline.
oh,
It's not just a
yeah,
Vega thing. It's like the Mexican game is in decline. Yes, Blanco had an injury for a year as well. I'm just saying that confidence that you would get with those previous players, it's just not there right now.
yeah. No, a lot of it has to do again what we talked earlier with the whole not there's not that much internal competition as there used to be. But Vega had said a lot of the same stuff in that podcast, but I guess because it's a podcast, it didn't make around. But he even said the whole story of how he ended up with the school or whatever they're called when he was injured, and he said a lot of that stuff. He had already said it. I agree with you though. He shouldn't say those things. He shouldn't think out loud because then the fans will question his commitment. Um, but Moranesi had a pretty good breakdown of Alexis Vega, where he had those during the World Cup. He had
You're
do the
breaking up.
end show. It was really a show, man. With La Volpe and they had a lot of different former players and managers. And Gamo was,
You're breaking up, Oil.
Yeah, you're breaking up pretty bad.
Oil.
Oh.
Bark twice.
Hey, he's gone.
Bark twice if you're Milwaukee. Yeah, he's gone. Yeah. So I don't see. I mean, I just see the league until they get back into the South American tournaments. I just don't see a remedy.
Well, I mean that is something you could say, but I mean it's very unlikely that it happens anytime soon. What it just seems that they need to put a little bit more emphasis on the sporting aspect. Because yes, it is a business. Yes, you are investing money. Yes, you're trying to make a profit. We get that. But it seems like right now it's like 95% business, 5% sport. Even if they, brought it down a level, like 80% business, 20% sport, you would see a lot more benefit. Because look at the talent pool right now. Like, Wacho sucks. Get rid of Wacho. Vega sucks. He doesn't commit to the team. Get rid of Vega. Who you bring in? You take Pochinto Gonzalez from Monterrey and you take Marcel Ruiz from Toluca. And then who do they get? There's like literally no talent pool right now.
It's hard to gauge. It really is very hard to gauge the talent pool because you don't have, like, for example, like, yeah, like, for example, take the game tonight, the games tonight. I mean, is Philadelphia Union or the Violet from Haiti? Does that really, you know, you don't know where you stand. Like, when like the Mexican team would play over there in Libertadores or Sudamericana or Norte, you had it. Okay, well, you know what? We're not as good as we thought we are. The league isn't as good as we thought we are. We need to improve
Mhm.
and stuff like that. And one of the good things about that is because I never, one of the criticisms of Sudamericana and Libertadores was the congestion of the calendar, right?
Yeah.
Which is true. It was real,
And the traveling
but
too.
that forced the managers and the front office to basically, to basically having to basically manage how the team going to be split up, and you had players like coming from like the reserves, that they would get some playing time, in the local league, and then obviously the starters would basically they would put preference into the Libertadores. Depending, I mean, that would always
Yeah.
depend, um, because for the first couple of years, the teams that were participating in Libertadores, they weren't. I mean, like for example, they were actually doing poor in the league, but they were doing very well in Libertadores.
Hmm.
And if I'm not mistaken, I want to say it was the 2002 America team. That was the first time that one of the Mexican league teams was doing well or relatively well in league, and also doing relatively well in Copa Libertadores. So, like for that example, that 2002 team, they went, I mean, granted, they advanced. They were the eighth seed, if I'm not mistaken, America, and they went to the finals. That's when they won against Necaxa. But they went to they went all the way to the semifinals
In
of the
Libertadores. Yeah.
Libertadores. So that kind of like gradual. I mean, that after that, that's kind of like the other teams. They learned how to manage both tournaments a little bit more efficiently. So you would have, like, it wouldn't be uncommon for the team to do well both in league and in Copa Libertadores, because the Mexican leagues have struggled at first, managing that.
When
And
were
even
when were they first invited to Libertadores?
in '98, but but
Oh.
but in '98 they invited Chivas in America.
Oh.
Okay, so that was '98, and then after that, uh that's when they after the '98 one, that's when they had it. They played those games against the amongst themselves, and then playing against the Venezuelan teams for the ticket. And if I'm not mistaken, I think it was 2003 or 2004. That's when they no longer had to pay off the Venezuelan, federation for their slots, because now it was a direct invitation from Conmebol, from on the request of the sponsor. If I'm not mistaken, I think it was with Rich. No, fucking,
Mm. It's
I don't
pretty
even know. I don't even know.
it's pretty impressive that, if they were invited in 98, by 2001 they had already reached the final. That's pretty impressive.
Well, think about it. That was in '98. In 2000 and in 2000, they already reached the semifinals. I mean, that fucking Walter Samuel, I mean, we were minutes away from making it to the finals, and then fucking Walter Samuel, the junior player, scored in like in towards the end of the game,
Oh.
and 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 uh, and I think America won the game like 3-0 or 4-3-1 or 4-1. I don't remember, but because of the goal differential, if I'm not mistaken,
Hmm.
they uh, they advanced. So that was basically two years into it, they were already reaching the semifinals, and then in '01, Cruz
Cruz
Azul
Azul.
reached the final,
Yeah.
and then yeah, 2005, 2006, 2007 of the Copa Sudamericana. In all three instances, Liga MX went to the finals
Yeah. Pachuca won the Sudamericana, right?
against Colo Colo. America lost to fucking Arsenal de Sarandí. I was pissed.
Yeah.
And Pumas played a hell of a game also against Boca.
Yeah. And Chivas went to back-to-back semis in Libertadores. So that was peak, man. Peak.
It was fun, dude. I
I
I
mean, I
I
think that's
felt
important, but I still feel like going back to Libertadores, going back to those tournaments, yes, it makes you better and everything. But I feel like that's like the top of the pyramid. Like right now, Mexican soccer doesn't even have its foundation strong. It doesn't have that set because that's not even something that you need to make you better if you focus on your foundation or even on your recruiting and your developing. Like look at MLS, Atlanta United, they got that kid Almada who's like 21, 22, who plays for Argentina. He was part of the Argentina World Cup roster. So for
I'm not, I'm
him
not,
to be at that age and MLS willing to convince him, like, come here, you'll ball out, you're young, we'll develop you, you'll live a good lifestyle, and then we'll send you off to Europe like we've done with other players. Liga MX is even struggling in that of attracting quality youth players that are like being like, come here to Mexico, and then we'll send you off for Europe. They're like bringing in like foreigners that are they're hoping is an unheard of foreigner youth player that can turn into something. But the fact that MLS can take your Almiron and send them off to Newcastle and convince them to stop there first. Now with this Almada kid who was at the World Cup with Argentina, and they convinced him to stop there before shipping him off to Europe. You're kind of getting left in the dust in all aspects. And just going back to Libertadores or
I'm not,
Sudamericana is not going to solve all those issues of all the basics that are being left behind.
using that as an anecdote as to that MLS is doing things right. Honestly, I don't see them doing things right either. So they're making it a little easier for their players to go to Europe. That's still not, as far as I can see, that's still not the right way to go about it.
No, but it's not their players. They're attracting foreign players that could go to Europe, come here to first,
Mexico and
and
Mexico's
then move
also
over there.
had, and Liga MX has also had Argentine players um, that were based in Liga MX, going to a World Cup. I mean, that's not that doesn't really say anything to me,
No, but the
Yeah, they
point
did.
is
It's funny
attracting
though.
quality youth. We're talking about now. We're not talking about 10, 20 years ago. I mean, I think the last player for Argentina national team was who? Nahuel Guzman. He was like second backup goalie for the national team to come out of Liga MX. Besides that, you have your Paraguayans, your Ecuadorians, and your Colombians,
Yeah.
which are considered
Yeah,
like your mid-level national teams in South America.
You know what? MLS still is still a glorified Central American league. It really is. I'm sorry, you're not gonna. It's like, what have they won? Nothing.
Yeah.
They've won absolutely nothing.
Well, but I think that's been the problem that everyone, including myself, has always seen MLS like as a joke, and the whole time it's consistently and slowly been improving at things. Whether you want to say they're not better than Liga MX or Liga MX is better, whatever the point might be, but the fact that we keep writing them off so consistently and not willing to embrace the good things
we
they're doing, it's what's gonna catch up to you.
we
But
suena manada
but here's
pastor.
the thing.
I've been singing that tune for a while.
No, here's the thing. I'm not. They're doing a lot of good things on the administrative side. I've never denied that. That is just one little small part of the equation. Okay,
Yes.
you're not. The league stuff isn't going to do anything for you. The CONCACAF championship is not going to do anything for you. It really isn't.
Yes, but what about the resources that America has and the first world resources has as far as equipment, player preparation, from
Mexico
health,
already has that.
nutrition, all that
Mexico
as
has that.
well?
Mexico,
Mexico has that. Rafa
but, but,
Marquez, when he went back to Leon, and he said they would change on plastic chairs.
but keep in mind,
Come on now, so
Leon
you tell me the
Leon
youth
at
guys
that
have
time.
that?
No,
Rafa
Leon
Marquez
at that.
at Leon
No,
saying he
hold
would
on,
change on the plastic chair.
but
You tell me
let's
youth players have all these
but,
access that
but
college
hold on.
Division One schools here, like football teams,
Hold on,
like
hold on. When did Leon start to get money? When did they get money?
yes, but
they
when did
pretty much
Rafa Marquez
improved once they
come?
became part of Grupo Pachuca.
Exactly. So
But
before,
yeah, they were
Leon wasn't Leon. When they got Grupo Pachuca, that's when they had started to
yes
get all this
because
money,
they don't
and
own the stadium.
now all their facilities are top notch. So just about every team in Liga MX now has top notch facilities and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
Leon went to second division and they were pretty much they were
Yeah,
one of the big
But when
clubs.
Marquez came over,
Tradition and
they were
then
already under Pachuca.
yeah, but I think they had just started like
they
that.
just
Just
started. It
Yeah, it
was
was fairly
starting.
new. Hmm.
It
No,
was.
but the
It
thing
was.
is that we're talking about the first team right now. We're talking about from youth level resources.
But you know what? The resources, and I've always say, look at Uruguay. Those guys don't really have, dude. They don't even have proper stadiums. If you go see, and you'll see this, and I'm going off of players that have made interviews in Liga MX of how like they had to like tape their soccer cleats, and how over here they would get a new pair every so often, so stuff like that. So like the resources, they help, but it's not it's not gonna make or break you at the end of the day.
No,
um
at the professional level, about 90% of the teams have facilities and stuff like that that are just as good, if not as better than what you see in Europe, like in the Spanish league. And that's not me
yeah.
saying that. That's a lot of players that
Well,
have experience.
Camoranesi said it.
Yeah,
He
just
Yeah,
said
recently.
that when he was at Cruz Azul, they would be in five-star hotels, and when he was playing in damn, I forget
In
the name of
Italy,
his
when he
team.
was in Italy, yeah.
Yes, but he went Chievo Verona. He said they would just it was like low budget everything, and that was we're in second division, but then I think they or was it they got relegated. I can't remember. That was years ago, man. That was like
yeah.
20 years. Um, but regardless, I mean, it's all European stuff, and he said like compared to Cruz Azul, it was like it was pretty cheap, and you see that in a lot of South American team clubs too, Brazil and Argentina, where they don't have like top notch. But I'm gonna agree with you on one point of what MLS is doing right, where they started focusing on bringing in younger talent from South America as opposed to bringing in these petardos from Europe, because there was like
Yeah.
some known player. And I remember when Liga MX started doing that too. They did it for a while. They were attracting some
But
top
hold on.
talent. But just really quick, let me and we even ended up seeing like when they had uh, Chelo Delgado and Luciano Figueroa at Cruz Azul, and they both went on to play with the Argentine national team. Um, and you've had there's quite a few. At one point, I think Liga MX was one of the leagues with the most national team players from Latin America
Yeah,
at
but
a World Cup.
just actually today I was reading this. A Boca player, what's the name? He played for America. People, what's the name? People, Ben,
Been so many, or which one?
Benedetto. Fuck, I forget
All
his name.
right.
Okay, he played for America a couple years back. He said it was on Twitter that I saw. The only thing he cares about is not even the league, Argentina. He cares about Copa Libertadores. Now, when Mexico was playing, the Liga MX was participating in Copa Libertadores. That right there was the selling point. That right there was the selling point for the young talent. The ones that weren't going to go to like Barcelona or those top clubs in Europe, they were going to go to Mexico, and that was the thing because they knew that they were going to get paid dollars in Liga MX, and they were also going to be able to have exposure with Copa Libertadores. So, the Conca champions in the Leagues Cup. What does that do? Yeah.
Ron, I'm gonna say something here. The Libertadores hasn't been as strong as it used to
No,
be because a lot of the economy in those countries, they're just losing players. So a lot of those teams aren't as strong as the teams. I mean, even better reason for Max to have stayed. They would have had like 3 cups by now. when, when you when you see
no,
Peruvian Paraguayan teams winning that tournament, uh,
no,
no
no,
disrespect, but you know that the quality has dropped a bit.
no, it's just Brazil's been better. Let's just be honest. But also, you had you had River Plate and one of their most, one of their, their golden eras recently. But the Brazilian teams have also been very good, recently. But again, that was a selling Mexican teams playing Copa Sudamericana, playing Copa Libertadores. it basically sells itself because then you can attract those good players from like Argentina, Brazil, Colombia, Chile, you know. So you can't. I mean, now in a way, I get it. You're going to have to compete with MLS because guess what? You're basically offering the same thing now. Oh well, Liga MX, MLS, okay. You may be able to convince some players that say, hey, well, it's a little safer to live in, in the United States. But I guarantee you, if Mexico was back in Copa Libertadores, that's right there the selling point.
Yes, but I think it just goes back to the point I was mentioning. You still need your foundations because you still need to your player development, your Mexican players, be bringing them up, making sure they're seeing consistent minutes at a youth level. But it's not just because you're giving them the minutes; it's because they have deserved it. And
Yeah.
then yes, you need to track quality talent from South America and other parts of the world. So when they do come in, they make those youth players better because they have to earn their spot to beat that quality guy. Right now, you don't have those quality foreigners like you have back in the day. But at the end of the day, I still think you need to work on your foundations. It's not just like going back to Libertadores is going to make us better at the club level, national team level, and that's it. It's over. No, there's still a
Well,
lot on the administrative side that we could learn from other leagues. There's still a lot like you want to talk the Uruguay thing. Okay, Uruguay doesn't have all these resources and look all the talent they send out. What I hear is how come Mexico has a lot more resources than Uruguay, has a lot more of a population than Uruguay, and can't even produce a tenth of the talent.
Well,
What's
yeah, but
not being done right?
the point there was sort of like
No, no, I get the
because you
point,
because
but I wouldn't say
you were
that my point with that was not like, oh, Me- Mexico
well,
doesn't
it's
have as
going
many
off as a
resources
plastic
as
care.
the U.S. My point is Mexico compared to other Latin American countries is much better off,
It's
but
like
it seems that the administrative side is not being done right. That if they were to handle that administrative side a lot better, there would be more talent. So that's why it feels like right now it's 95%
nah,
business
do you think
and five
Uruguay is?
percent sport.
Do, don't you think those guys are doing shit right, man? In South America, they're even more corrupt than in Mex.
yeah,
It's
I
not
mean,
like they're doing things right, man. They're like basically throwing darts.
No, but
But
I didn't say those guys were doing those things right. Those guys in South America, they're producing a lot of talent because a lot of it comes from the players out of necessity, out of that hunger to
yeah,
get out of
there
that
you go.
situation. I can't
Yeah,
remember
that's
who
why.
was the player, the guy who plays for Manchester United, Anthony. They asked him what his dream was to win Champions League or to win the World Cup. He's like, my dream was to get my mom out of the favela. I accomplished
Yeah,
my dream. I'm done. So
yeah.
my point is that let's be honest, not everyone in Mexico is rich, but there is those resources there. It is the most important sport of the game. You think with having the resources that they were managed a little bit better and a little bit more emphasis on
We need to take him
on
away.
talent instead of money, you could produce maybe not the same quality of players because they don't have that hunger, but you should still be able to produce something decent.
Oh yeah, but I think with the lack of production has been lack of opportunities. That's basically it. Like so, if you see Uruguay was one thing that's going on, they don't really have foreigners. It's just the local talent. So that's a lot of players getting a lot of playing time. Um, like same, same of all those leagues. Even with coaching now in the Nacho interview, he talked about in second division, he was the only foreign coach of the whole second division in Spain. And so you don't really see that in Mex. You have foreigners, like in second division, is still taking up spots, which is one of the moves they want to do now with the rules. They talked about not rules format, where they're going to combine like what under 23s with the
under
Liga de
20.
Ascenso, and then they're gonna do it so that there can only be three foreigners. And if they do that, I do think we'll see an influx of new players pretty soon because it's basically just what you need, just playing time. I, I I've seen like I've gone to second division games in Argentina. Man, they were horrible, and a lot of these dudes they just keep playing in 2 3 years of just playing and playing. they end up getting better. That's just like what is it, that 10,000 hour rule? Like the more you practice something, the more you're about to get better at it. And that's the same thing. And just Mex doesn't have. They took away all those opportunities just because the whole business of selling foreigners. And I will say it's tied to money laundering, but that's how a lot of these clubs stay afloat. So I mean, the player doesn't even have to be good. You're just gonna use them to sell them, and everyone made money.
I think the problem with Liam Ek is it's not exclusive to Liam Ek. Is you've seen like the globalization of the sport. You've had issues with like Madrid, right, lining up without a Spanish player. The Prem League, obviously, one of the most competitive leagues in the world, and a lot of those clubs, I mean, their starting lineups don't even have that many Englishmen. So it's like, this isn't just a Liga MX problem.
No, and it's funny you mentioned England because obviously their league is loaded with foreign players, but yet the English team can still field a decent team, and and that's and that's in part because their starting lineup, their guys are playing important games. They're playing in the Champions League or the Europa League or whatever, and that's in many ways the English system and the Mexican system. I mean, there's a lot of similarities because their league, import a lot of players, and their players are like, how they say that the Mexican player is overvalued and stuff like that because I mean we have a higher price tags in Mexico, and I just think that the one thing that the Mexican player needs is basically to be playing and more. That's one things that I did agree with Osorio was that the Mexican player needs to be playing more important games. Now, you could argue, okay, Champions League. You can argue, the European, the Europa League and stuff like that. But for me, I'd put Libertadores and Sudamericana there because I think Osorio was correct that you need to have those players play in those situations day in and day out, and
Yeah,
that's where I have seen the decline of the league because we're not exposing our players to those situations, and I get it.
no,
One of the reasons now, keep in mind, we were basically, forced out of Copa America in 2011 because of Jack Warner and Chuck Blazer, and then also obviously they forced us out of Copa Sudamericana. But it was our own doing. It was the league's own doing of getting out of Copa Libertadores, and that was a mistake because finally when Jack Warner and Chuck Blazer were out of the picture, there was a need, like a change in mentality because the idea was obviously getting the World Cup back into CONCACAF. So basically, the mentality, the mindset was to basically create, not, and I understand it, and I get it, to create a league in North America that can compete with the best in the world. I'm okay with that, but when I started to notice that they weren't serious about that project, because if you're really serious about creating the best or at least one of the best leagues here in the here in North America, meaning like maybe a possible merger between Liga MX and the Canadians and the US. Okay, I get it, but that means you're not selling off your prospects to Europe. You're keeping your best players here, and you're attracting the best players from South America and Africa and Asia and stuff like that. So when I noticed that MLS, like for example with Pepsi, I mean they were basically jiggling their pants, dude. Oh my God, we sent them to some third rate German team. Like really?
Hmm.
I mean that's something to be proud of. Sending one of your prospects, to some third rate German team.
Yeah. And how's that working for him?
And that's kind of like when I realized, you know what? Nah, never mind, dude. Fuck you guys. I said, you know what? Let's go back to the Libertadores because we can't. Here's the thing: you're not gonna create one of the best leagues in the world exporting your best players.
But
Excuse me.
with the whole England thing, like you guys want to talk, we're mentioning.
Yeah,
That's what I was trying to point out. It was like the whole administration, if it was improved a little bit, it would be a lot better. So Gareth Southgate, he's the coach of England right now. But
yeah.
Google Gareth Southgate, your kids, your say. Is this program so Gareth Southgate, he used to be the head of elite development, and this guy used to be the national development manager for the FA. They created this program and they got it approved by 75% of the English FA. And basically what they did is any team under 13 was no longer doing 11 versus 11 because they realized that Spain, France, and Italy, they do not play 11 aside until the under 14 level. So they completely revamped the whole system where, players it was teams of 5, 7, or 9, depending on their age. And then they went and overhauled the club academies, putting like rules and plays that they had to follow for the betterment of the English players. So Southgate starts that plan, and he makes sure that plan is followed through. It gets approved by 75% of the FA. And now, who's the coach? All those academy players that came through that plan, who's the coach at the top of that team now? Southgate. So that was my point, that it's something that's being a decision is being made, and is having a follow through it because they saw it was a problem. Mexico knows there's a problem with the teams, with the U teams, and all those things. Pero mientras los partidos moleros keep selling, as long as the team keeps making it to the World Cup, as long as things keep, so and so, that's all right. It doesn't
But
matter.
what problem with the youth team? They just won. They just won one of their divisions. I mean, just because they had one, they didn't even have a bad tournament. They had like one bad game where they missed like six penalties, and then that game happened to be two qualifiers in one.
So what I mean by the
And
problem with the U teams is the disconnect. I know the U teams are successful at the youth level. It's the disconnect from translating it from youth level to a higher level. That's the problem with the U teams. You
but
could
what
win
do you
all
mean? But
you
But
could win
that's
all
to
the
be
U20, all the U20
wait,
World Cups you want, but the problem with the U teams that the owners have is that they don't give them the opportunity to translate that to a higher
yeah,
level.
but that's not a problem
it,
with the under 20
it,
team. That's a
it's
problem at the club level.
it's
That's
it's unrealistic. It really is very unrealistic to take a group. Like let's say you start them at the 17 or 15, then the 17, and then the 20, and then the 23, and then the first team. When you start that generation of like let's say 20 players, in reality you're I mean if you can retain at least anywhere from 2 to 3, great. you know
yeah. No, it goes down, Ron.
because
I've done
because
the
that
number. I've done the numbers.
No, I'm not saying that you take a team that's successful at the U16 level and the majority of that team has to become pros. No, what I'm saying is you're seeing a lot of positive results with different teams at different levels, and there's no like streamlined process. It's like whoever makes it kind of. There's no follow
Yeah,
through, no nothing. You have players like the one who was at Pachuca and then went to France and had his ACL. The can't
Oh,
remember his
it's
name.
the fuck. What was it?
Pisuto, what's his name?
Pisuto. Yeah, that's right.
It's like players like that. Like he was like what you win like top 3 of the
Yeah,
World
what the
Cup
fuck
or
happened to
tournament
that
he was
guy?
in, and then you forget about him. There's no follow through with him, no nothing. Same thing with that Martin Galvan kid when he went pro with 15 with Cruz Azul, and then they just disappear. There's no nothing. That
but
Espericueta kid who there was a lot of hope for, same thing, just fell through. Now he plays Sunday League. Obviously, there are a
that
lot of decisions are dependent on these players, but it just seems like the ones that are supposed to be quote unquote your stars, the most promising, that there's not even a follow through to at least put them on that platform. If
well,
you're like,
because it
hey, if
doesn't.
there's
It,
I mean there's a lot of factors that play into that. Believe it or not, even puberty plays a factor into it. You
Yeah,
know,
your body
and it's funny,
changes.
like yeah, I mean, I remember like if I'm not mistaken, like I remember I think if I'm not mistaken, I think it was Gringo Castro because all of a sudden this guy comes up out of nowhere. And like I remember, in fact, I'm almost positive it was him talking about this that, his path to like to the first team wasn't very normal to say that hey you're a star on the 15 or like on the under 12 team or I think they do it by generation like the 89 the 94 or the years that they were born, right? So he was basically saying that he just he was just an average player, and then just it almost kind of like happened overnight where things changed for him and stuff like that. So that it's really hard to determine who's going to make it and who's not going to make it.
No, I agree with
Yeah,
what you're saying, but like the answers you guys are giving me is the answers I would expect from the directivos. Hey, it's out of control. There's puberty. There's a lot of things we can't control. My point is, I'm not saying take 30 players and come out with 30 elite players. If you give the proper follow through to 100 of them and you get one elite, that's a success. Because remember, on the
Yeah.
field, there's only 11. So if you
yeah.
get one
Well, I mean,
elite guy for 11, that's a success right there. And it
yeah,
just seems
already.
this follow through for all these promising quote unquote players, that follow through is not there. They said that Tuca didn't like young players, so that's why he didn't give Pericueta a chance. And that Tuca said that he wasn't ready. Why didn't no one say, all right, Tuca, you don't think he's ready? Nothing. Let's send him someone else that is better with youth players. Let's send him to Pachuca. This is one of our more promising players for the future. So it seems that
Well,
there's that disconnect with
you get
Liga MX
scouted.
and FMF.
No, it's these guys
Well,
get spotted
and
early on, and the really good players by 17, they already know. By 17, Marquez was already getting called up to the senior national team at 17. So a lot of these players by that age, they're already, they'll make their whole way up there, and the scouts, anyone that the least amount, they'll stand out. So what happens is that we kind of like to translate that success of the youth, almost into thinking that they're ready, and which is we saw it with Marcelo Flores. Always he has a good game at under 20 Arsenal, put him in the national team, and it's like he can't even crack it into the first team. Why you want him in the national team playing a World Cup match? You
and,
know,
but
so it's that whole
we
mentality. But it's a numbers game at the end of the day. So we just talked about it. If there's not that many teams, you know, then less opportunities to play. So
Are
now,
that's kind of
yeah,
the reality of some of those guys. They weren't able to beat some of the guys that were already there that didn't go to a World Cup, a Youth World Cup, or called up to the national team, but they're way, they're taking their spot. They're better. Like the goalie, I like to use the goalie example now. We had the Chua goalie, right? Goes to Portugal. He's there for like what 2 years, whatever. Returns to Chivas, and he's he's fighting for a spot for a dude that was a Tapatio. And it's like what you know?
no, I get it. No, and no, I get. I mean, I get what you're saying. But but even like using Tuca, I get it. I mean, he's always had that like he was always against, or he always spoke. I wouldn't say bad, but of like like for example the what was it, the 20 something rule? What was it? Like
Yeah, 2011. Well,
yeah,
Nacho
whatever.
talked about it too. If you guys
But
from his meeting.
I mean, I can understand the argument that hey, it's the first division is not the role of the first division is not to provide players to the national team. It's to get you have the best players or to develop players. I mean, that's kind of like it's in an ideal world, obviously you'd want that, but you know it's going to be hard. It's going to be like because you're right. All those players like Espericueta and like all the players like that won the 2005 World Cup over there, or Youth World Cup and what's the name in Peru, right?
mhm.
I mean, really, like out of from that generation, is the ones that did well. I mean, Giovanni Dos Santos, Carlos Vela, Hector Moreno, um, and you thought for a while that what's his name, El Torito guy from America. There was two players from America. What's his name? El Paleta Izquierda, El Torito. I forget his name. Um, I mean, I honestly thought that just about all those players were gonna were gonna be standouts. But unfortunately, I mean, really, you only had four or five players at most that that were able to have good careers.
I think the problem is we put too much weight on these prospects, right? Like, it's just
Yes.
it's too much and it's unrealistic. And another problem is this is a numbers game. You need to be
Yes.
pumping out as much of these people as possible, and hope that out of 100 you get one. But
It is.
that's the problem. We don't even like the funnel
We,
is so
we,
small.
we, we pumped them up. Remember the '99 Youth World Cup where they beat Mexico beat Argentina. What was it, like 4-0?
Yeah.
Just about
Oh, I know what happened there, Ron. They went to celebrate that
yeah,
massive win. It was in Nigeria.
yeah.
And they went to
And then they shut the bed
a
against the
house of
Japanese.
ladies of ill repute. And they were drained of all their energy, and then Japan just mopped the floor with it. I was like, what team? Well, I remember watching their game, and I was like, what's going on? Is Japan that good? Dude, is Japan? Is Japan was just, dude, Max just, dude, these guys look tired, man. They just look slow. And they robbed us, dude, because, and by they, I mean the players for now the Pito Locos. Japan ended up playing Spain, and I think, that was the Spain with Javi and Iniesta there. But then, yeah, Spain goes on and they massacre Japan,
there
dude.
was that generation, that '99 generation. I mean, I thought there was going to be more players that that were going to have, that were going to be standouts. Because I mean, we thought that Osorio, Danny Osorio and Vitorino, what's his name, Cesario Vitorino Jr. I mean, but unfortunately, like I said, it's you're right. It is a numbers game, but I'm still of the opinion that the that managing both the Libertadores and the league, even though it was tough, there was always a silver lining that it forced the team to manage the roster a little better, and it gave it gave the younger players or the more inexperienced players more
Yeah,
experience.
an opportunity to step in.
Yeah.
I mean, we kind of saw that with the rebirth of Copa MX. Like, a lot of
Yeah,
teams
you're
would
right.
just use their B side, and you got to see a lot of reserve players get minutes in that. So, I mean,
I was hoping that would help, you know.
yeah.
But
Yeah, that's the problem, Liga MX, like, let's be honest, they play once a week. Sometimes they have double jornadas, but for the most part, you're playing every 7 days, and that's not enough time to rotate the squad and give everybody minutes. You have to take advantage of like international friendlies, and that they schedule friendlies for in that time when it's a FIFA break. But apart from that, man, like with Liga MX, there's just one cup and that's it. I think if Copa MX was around, you'd be able to
Yeah, they
to take.
they always get rid of it.
Yeah, it's really annoying.
Yeah, they should have more tournaments. We talked a long time ago, me and Ron, about they should have like the what is it, around the FA Cup where even the amateur teams can compete.
Yeah, that would
they
be
tried
sick.
that. They tried that back in the '70s.
But what happened?
Just it didn't really come to fruition.
Well,
It,
see,
it, it,
with some of
I
these, you
think,
just keep doing them, And it's like, I don't know what they're expecting, like what, to get it right the first try?
well, I mean, honestly, like for example, I kind of knew that Copa Mexicans was going to be doomed from the beginning because, I mean, what's the point of having? I mean, the whole thing of Copa is single elimination, right? So to have group in the Copa is kind of like defeats the purpose. So it's you just I don't know. It's like uh,
I think it's just to guarantee matches for the the smaller clubs, right? Like you look at teams in the Liga de Expansión. It's not just like you have one shot and that's it, you get eliminated. Like for them to be in the group stage and get a chance to play twice.
but I mean, but here's the thing though. What you already have the league. Okay, technically the league you have a regular season and then you have a playoff, right?
Yeah.
So so if you're gonna do the cup, you don't need to make it. You don't need to basically make it into the same format or similar format where you have group and then you have group play and then you have the knockouts. I said, the cup should have been single elimination from the very beginning.
Yeah, I
I
think
mean,
I think the difference
that's the
though
whole.
is
That's
the volume, right? So like you have maybe 18 Liga MX teams, and then I mean, how many are from Expansión right now? I think there's maybe like between 12. I don't know how big Liga de Expansión is right now. So I mean, there's not that many clubs, you know.
so like for example, like look at like the FA Cup. It's the third round, which is in January. That's when the
Yeah,
Premier League they come into play. But basically, the 4 or 5 months before, it's basically from the
yeah,
lowest part of the football
yep,
pyramid, and it starts gradually. Like you're going from like Division 9, Division 8, Division
yeah.
whatever, and then you get to the professionals,
hmm
which is basically the fourth. Well, technically it's the fourth division, but I forget what it's called now.
It's
You know,
League Two. Yeah.
League Two, League One, whatever, stuff like
hmm
that. So I mean, and
Well,
and I
that's the
mean
difference
that,
too. Is in England they have so many clubs, man. There's like
but
every city has a
but they
club.
but that's because of the culture.
Yeah.
I mean, they have a culture that we don't. But but like that's what I was saying. That's what I was hoping that Copa America would do was be a true knockout tournament where it's basically like random, like it's a random seeds, and then like let's say okay, hey, Cruz Azul, they're gonna play Nayarit, whatever, and Cruz Azul is gonna have to travel to Nayarit.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean that's kind of like what I was hoping for, but you know, it is what it is.
Yeah. Instead, we get Leagues Cup, which is in the summertime. Not sure how it's gonna work. We do have our number one fan joining us tonight. You're on mute, but feel free to speak up, Ricardo. Really quickly, I'm gonna go to the YouTube chat. We have Giovanna saying, "Just dropping in to say I enjoy the podcast. Good night." We always appreciate it, all our listeners.
Good evening.
Yo, what's up?
Gentlemen, how's it going?
It's going.
Good. You're just chilling, buying some America tickets.
America is
League
so
Cup tickets.
humongous, the biggest team in the world, that it has Hermanos like Al Pastor watching MLS. This, I never thought I'd see the day. Well, once again, America proves, excuse me, once again, America proves it has the most lethal offense in the league, man. That guy that kicked the ref should have got a red card, and everyone would be singing a different tune right now. America is like Russian roulette, man. It wins and it dies by its offense, deer hunter style, and then you reflect. Then on the opposite end, you got Chivas, who's coddled by the media with the mediocre defense that's overhyped. You saw that game disgusted me, man. When they played Atlas on Saturday, no I thought I was watching an MLS match. No wonder El Pastor watches MLS now. It reminds me of his Chivas. That ass spanking that America gave Chivas made him quit.
Oh
And
man.
I wanted a rebuttal something.
Yeah.
I'm tired of hearing. I'm tired of everyone drinking the MLS Kool Aid, man. It has the coloring, but it's missing the sugar. It tastes nasty. It's it's uh, it's it's forced. It's not authentic. Everything's fake about it. Ron Kron made a great. I love that point he made. Excuse me. MLS doesn't know what the hell it wants to be. You watch the media. Is it next? Is it a glorified Ajax sending all the players to Europe, or is it a top? Or is it trying to be a supposed top five league? Yeah, and it doesn't have any of its domestic players in it, like Ron says. So how exactly are you building like why is Liga MX wasting its time with this crap? Libertadores should be the way, but we already know the FIFA gate has these guys under. That's why they're in cahoots with MLS. And
I'm,
and
I'm hoping that after the 26, the 2026 World Cup, where like the relationship, the honeymoon, is over. I'm hoping that the league, comes to their senses and say, you know what, sorry, man, this isn't working out. The whole, you know, Leagues Cup and Campeones Cup and stuff like that. Because ultimately, I mean, the one good thing about it is that you still have the press, like the more influential press, like the guys from Picante and La Última Palabra and stuff like that. That they're constantly saying, "Hey, we need to go back to the Libertadores. We need to go back to the Libertadores. We need to go back to Copa America." So, I mean, I'm hoping that they're more vocal. Um, I mean, that's my hope. I'm hoping that those guys, the ones that really can influence, and basically have the ear of the front office people, I'm hoping that they're, more vocal about you know getting back into those type of tournaments, because ultimately I think that's when Mexican football was at its peak. But
They're not gonna
again,
come to their senses at all.
I mean,
Because look, I'm gonna read to you right now. So MLS they dropped this article, Leagues Cup 101, and it says what is the thing? What is Leagues Cup? And it says it's USA versus Mexico, MLS versus Liga MX. Liga MX wants to desperately copy many of the business models and business practices in MLS, and they want to learn from these lucrative practices. So the
Hmm.
Liga MX incentive was money and the exchange of business practices, which leads to more money. That's coming from MLS.
Huh.
They're not hiding it. That's coming from an article written by MLS. They're not coming
but,
to no senses. Liga MX knows why they're in it. They're in it for the
but
money.
what business practices are those? Having billionaire owners
yeah,
I don't
can
know
you
what the
post that
business
article?
using
practices are,
NFL
but
stadiums?
the
Hmm.
the final sentence that says that results in money leading to more money. That's how they
Like,
finished it.
can you post that article?
Uh, so I saw it on the it's an app. So I don't. Let me see if I can post the link because
A
it's on
link
the
or even a
app.
screenshot?
Did you read that on El Futbolero?
I can send you a screenshot. No, it's on. Look,
What el
no,
futbolero?
look, no.
That site is trash.
So it's on the St. Louis City. So the St. Louis City is an MLS team. It's on their app. So they all
Oh,
But
all the clubs post the same article.
damn, bro, this guy's deep
So
into the
so
MLS.
here
they're
I'll
not. Can't stop hating. He he. Just to add to Al Pastor, it was about a year or two ago with the former Liga MX president Bonilla did travel to New York and he met with a lot of the higher ups to study the league.
But what are they
Uh,
studying, Joel?
well,
Every
different things. I mean,
every
it's
every
it's more in marketing and in just how they structure the league. Because think about it, ultimately they're gonna have to do some changes just because it's changed the way we watch football and it's all becoming streaming now. And the complaint, and we talked about this last podcast, was how difficult it is now to watch games. It's not as accessible as before, and so I think that's going to cost a lot of these. It's going to cost them money, and they're in it for money. So ultimately, they're going to want to do something where they maybe package the whole league, you know, and you could be buying the whole league IMX in Apple TV or something like that. Uh, so right now it's very fractured, but I'm thinking they're trying to find something that will satisfy everyone.
But you know
So
what? They can go and have as many meetings with the NFL, with Major League Soccer. It's really pointless because unless the Liga MX owners all agree to basically, kind of like the NFL owners and MLS owners, where that they all have to agree, like with the collective bargaining rights, the TV rights, all that type of stuff. What else is there to learn from that?
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, it's a business. You're talking about
No, I
business,
get
man.
that. I get that, but the thing about it is one of the things that's been painfully obvious, at least for me that I've seen in the last at least 2 3 years is that those staff within the Liga MX, the Grupo Salinas, the Televisa group, the Pachuca group, the Norteños, all that type of stuff. It's like WWE, and unless these guys all, say, hey, Lord, let's put aside our differences and let's all try to work for the greater good here. Like, well, man, we're gonna have to sacrifice at the beginning, but
No, I
ultimately,
mean, look, the way I will put it at the end of the day is business. I do agree to what Ricardo is fake. Like being like in an MLS like game, like in the stadium and everything. Motherfuckers don't even know what an offsides is. They're complaining about fouls that they shouldn't be complaining. It's just like embarrassing. It's terrible. All the chants are the same. All the teams have like the Dale Dale Campeón chant. People don't even speak Spanish, but they're just copying all these. It's almost like Liga MX too copied a bunch of the porras from Argentina to make it quote unquote more passionate. Well, they're doing the same thing here. All they're copying
They
everything from
brought
the West Coast,
they
and
actually
the West
brought
Coast
Arj.
brought it from Mexico. But the thing about it, I had said this before, Fiorentino Perez from Real Madrid president, he said he wanted to create the Super League because the NFL makes more revenue than the top five soccer leagues in Europe combined. So the way I see it from Mexicans is LAFC is worth $1 billion. They're valued $1 billion. Liga
Yep.
MX owners are probably looking at it. Hey, if
Yes.
if we really buy into their thing that MLS is going to be one of the top five leagues in the world, who's going to be one of their partners right there, ready to cash in? Who's
no,
going to be one of
I
the
get,
quote unquote early
Yes.
founders of the League's Cup? Who's going
no,
to be
I
one
get
of
it.
the
Yes.
quote unquote of the early founders with the League's Cup, where they bring teams
Yes.
from Europe or South America? That's where they're seen, and they're seen
See,
in a business move.
it's
And I'm
like
not
you've been
saying that
listening to me.
I'm not saying I agree with you. I'm sorry. I'm not saying I agree with it. I'm not saying I like it. I'm just saying I find it very unlikely to go back to Libertadores, to go back to whatever, because these are the same business people that have been putting business before the game, and it's
But it
only
is that
unfortunate
is
to be that way.
that is football though. Business
But, but,
first, game second.
but another
You don't
interesting
have
thing that
football without money.
another interesting thing that you said was about copying the Argentine chants, and Joel, he's guilty of that. You know, he,
No, no, I'm
he,
what?
saying it's
What?
it's a
What
fake
are you
product
talking
here.
about?
MLS is a fake product. Like if you're a
the,
real fan of the game, it's a
What
fake
the?
product. It feels
Joel was
corny.
copying the Argentine chants, during the World Cup, like "Escucha, corre la bola," you know.
I
That
don't
is
know what
Mr.
you're
P.
talking about.
Don't lie,
what,
Joel.
what the
You know
hell,
you were
Rod?
doing.
And you know what's the perfect example? The Mazatlan owner. The other day, like when the Leon thing happened, like he tweeted like we gotta change a lot of things in Liga MX. And one person responded to him to like dueños mediocres, jugadores mediocres, liga mediocre. And then the owner Mazatlan responded to him, público mediocre, afición mediocre. So,
that guy's a that guy's a
so I
troll
mean,
though,
it's just
man.
like, come on,
He's a
man.
pretty good
You really
troll.
think they have the fans' best interest at heart? You think they want to put this romantic, beautiful product out there? No, they're going where the money's at.
a troll with a lot of influence. Hall.
Yes.
Don't downplay this guy.
Oh, I'm not downplaying him.
No,
I
I
He
agree
like
has
with a lot of the
Yorichi.
stuff he says.
I
he
like
has
Yorichi.
he has
But
both of his cronies, that el cabeza de nalga Luis Garcia, and that other spoiled tea drinker that thinks he's Mexican, Marty
Martinoli,
Noli. It's kind of a he's contradict his the message his TV station gives out is kind of contradicting what he says, because his TV station, those two guys are always shitting on everything Liga MX, and then they're
yeah,
doing Liga MX commercials. They're hyping up the Liga MX game, the Mazatlan against Puebla game. Like, which one is it? Is Liga MX shit, or is everyone going crazy? And what's going on here? You know?
yeah. No, that's just how they always done it. Um, that was for a long time. Tele, TV Azteca's mo, to attack Televisa or America, and now they're sort of partners. So go after the league. we need a new enemy. Um, it's
Dale,
just
dale,
pretty.
dale, campeón.
No, what was it a couple weeks ago? The
Wait,
telecast, the telecast with what's his name, Luis Garcia and Martinoli and Sage, where he was being a philosopher, Sage, where he said something. He tweeted something about, or no, he didn't tweet it. It was on the telecast, whatever. But he says, "Si eres feo, pero tú tienes buen corazón, no importa porque todavía eres feo," or some shit like that. But
Sagi's voice is so smoothing to hear.
Tell us how you really feel. Hey, but
Ron, are you
you wanna know
pausing
how
me, Ron?
America does have power that Ricardo doesn't like to admit? And I don't mean the good power, the dirty power. There's a ref right now from the Leon thing. He got 12 games. Ron was saying that the Leon players should have gotten more than 2 games. But you remember
Yeah,
how Pablo Aguilar actually headbutted the guy, and he only got 8 games. Originally, it was a year, but then it got dropped to 8 games. The ref barely did a knee tap, and he gets 12. And I get it; he's supposed to keep a cooler head. But come on, Pablo Aguilar really went and like headbutted the dude. And only got 8 games for it.
yeah.
It's different time, Balpasor, different times, man.
Different time. It was like
Also,
what 2 years
also the
ago.
club and the player didn't make a big deal about it, and I think that also played a role in that. They were
You
like,
got that.
"Hey, it happened. Whatever. Let's just move on."
You got the Argentine guy stroking the World Cup, and you're complaining about this guy
But
kneeing each other.
it's a gentle tap. Um, no, I wanted to add something to what Al Pastor was saying. Yeah, where you're saying like if if the League's Cup ever takes off and whatnot, because I've I talked about this long time, and then even that a lot of people were like turned off. They're like, no, you know, why are you talking about
Oh, well, I still
MLS or
disagree
whatnot?
with you because you were trying to
And
say it could be better than Champions League. I disagree with you.
well,
I
eventually,
think it could be something important, not no
eventually,
Champions League important.
Champions League
Important
started
for
it
the
started as
area.
an invitational from a magazine,
I don't
and
know.
they would. Well, I mean, you can
League
look it up.
League's Cup's
And they
gonna
keep.
fail, Joel. De mí te
Well, I mean,
recuerda.
it can fail, of course. I'm not saying it's a guarantee, but I'm just saying anything can change. So, but I mean, I think the hopes is that after the World Cup, if the sport gains popularity here in the U.S. and more people start watching, that means more sponsors, more money. Then yeah, you would see this cup would improve, and I could even see them inviting South American teams, or even doing something where they would play against European teams because pre-COVID, we would see a lot of European teams coming here and playing tournaments. Remember, Chivas played some international. I forgot what it was called, but it was Chivas in America, and they played all these teams from Europe. And so I could see a lot of that stuff happening. Um, we already gone over the Euro like Champions League stuff, so I don't want to rehash that. But you know, you're seeing how a lot of these teams are going bankrupt or owned by foreign. You know, they're not even owned by people from that country. They're owned by they have a bunch of foreign owners. And so if that over there their economy ever fails, or those people just decide to invest somewhere else, then it will drop. The quality I do think will drop because they're very dependent on foreign talent as well. So I mean, if and it's like the U.S. Like so, you're saying the U.S. could have the best football league, basketball league, but they can't have the best soccer league.
You're underestimating how cheap these billionaire owners are, Joel. Who's putting up Manchester United for sale?
The
It's
Glazers.
I would say AEG, right?
Who's putting Liverpool up for sale?
LeBron James? I don't know. Who owns Liverpool?
It's a U.S. owner. These, the look. If anyone watches the NFL, they have their salary cap, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wherever, like supposedly they're trying to implement in Liga MX. If you watch the NFL, the constant news, the storylines revolve around the draft, who they signed, this and that, and they never want to go over that salary cap because a lot of these owners are cheap bastards, man. And the same with the NBA. What happened to that Clippers owner? That guy never spent money on the Clippers. He even said it in one of his interviews. He just sat back and collected the TV rights money that they generated. What
how
makes
much
you
money
think
was being
they go back
how
to
much money
MLS?
yeah, but how much money was being put? That's
Oh
the
no,
thing.
to add
It
to
could seem cheap.
Ricardo's,
It could be 100 million, and to you, you're gonna say he's being cheap.
no,
And
but to
so
add
we
to
tell you which soccer team is in at least in this part of the world getting that much.
no, but to add to Ricardo's point, nobody has that like Saudi Arabia money. But Saudi Arabia, they're offering Messi like $400 million a year. Honestly, no one else can compete with that. But the fact that the program, the plan to bring Messi to the MLS, their plan is that each owner pitches in to bring him in, and then one team gets him. In this case, it would be he chooses Miami, New York, LA, or one of those. He gets to choose where he wants to go. But how are you gonna be the U.S.? How are you gonna have all these billionaires? How are you gonna be one quote unquote one of the strongest economies? And your plan to bring in Messi is that every owner of the 28 teams they have has to pitch in to cover bring him in covering his salary, and then on top of that, giving him a percentage of a franchise fee so he can get his own expansion club down the road.
Oh
Yeah,
shit! Damn.
Even so, are you broke or are
everyone
you
wins,
cheap?
dude.
Are you broke
No,
or are you
everyone
cheap?
wins, dude. Everyone wins. Everyone wins, dude.
How does everyone win
That's
if
You're,
every single owner's pitching in and bring in? Imagine if at Liga MX, all the owners pitched in and bring in Gignac.
yeah,
it's
but
pathetic.
Messi's
It's
at
pathetic.
another level than Gignac.
No, but
That's
I'm
why
just
MLS will
saying.
never. That's why MLS will never work because it's a one entity league, and
No, when
football
they're
is a
hope,
passion sport for
no,
all.
they're hoping,
You're never gonna celebrate if America gets a bombazo.
they're
You're
ho-
never gonna celebrate that as a Chivas fan. These MLS
mm,
dorks, they all
no, but
have a
I would,
hive
but
mindset.
if America brought a Messi or a CR7, I would, because it improves the whole league. Uh, and I guess if bringing Messi, they're hoping to have something similar like the Pele when Pele came to the New York Cosmos. You guys should see the, you guys should see. I recommend there's like a documentary on the Cosmos,
Mm.
and it shows how when it started and they're playing like in a high school field, and Warner Media buys them, and I think and then they moved them to Giant Stadium, and they had to like paint the grass green and shit like that for TV. But it's trippy how almost overnight they went from some amateur semi-pro team into like pretty much the first Galactico squad. If you end up seeing all the players they brought, sure enough they were at an older age, but still it was like damn, all those big names. But when Pele came here, dude, he was everywhere, man.
Yeah.
He transcended the sport. You would see him on Sunday morning cartoons, just TV shows everywhere. There was a journalist, and this is a story too, and I forget the name. He was very anti like soccer, and he was gonna do an interview with Pelé, and he took him to a baseball stadium so you
Oh,
could see like a real sport, and they had to stop the game because people started crowding Pelé.
wow.
And that's a true guy. Like I'll probably go and read it so we could see more, go more in depth to that story. But if you bring someone like that, that's very iconic, it now becomes very mainstream, and now everyone's talking about it. And they haven't had a player like that. And if they were, I think they missed. I think um,
No,
that
see,
whole
I have to
Honestly,
scandal with
disagree with
Tia.
you. I
I
have to disagree with you there. I think it's steady mainstream because you were in that bubble. But as most Americans from that time era of, hey, remember when Pelé came to America? Most of them probably have no idea what you're talking about. And you see it with the World Cup. Everybody in this
No, a
country
lot of those dudes
rallies.
are still there. Hey, dude,
No,
that wasn't that
everybody in
long
this
ago.
country rallies
That,
behind the U.S. national team during
hey,
the World Cup. But outside of the World Cup, you ask them about like the Gold Cup, you ask them about the All State Cup coming up. They have no idea what's going on with their national team.
I
on it.
know,
It's just
but
like
for
that
that,
fever, that hype, but there's no actual true passion behind it. It's just
maybe
Tournament
there's
all
not,
style.
but there's a big difference now. So when that happened, and the North American Soccer League, it was still just getting up its speed, and they ended up bringing in a lot of players. You can see the list. It was impressive. Hugo Sanchez, they had George Best, they had a bunch of like Johan Cruyff. Pretty much, pretty much all the top players ended up coming here. But um,
Beckenbauer.
yeah, Beckenbauer, Carlos Alberto, dudes, list goes on. But they didn't, they were playing games like at football stadiums, like big football stadiums. They didn't have like a lot of the infrastructure, which now the league, this league MLS learned from that. That's why they built a lot of smaller stadiums, and a lot of those stadiums can be amplified. So they don't have to stay at 20. They could easily go to 40. But the point is, they have all their infrastructure. So if it ever blows up, dude, everything's already in place.
Messi is wrong
And,
for the MLS though. He's not the kind of person that's gonna appeal to the casual Americans that don't know anything about soccer. Number one, because he's a little bitch. Number two is he doesn't know the language.
damn,
He's he doesn't know
damn,
English.
Jaime.
He doesn't know
Shit.
English. Like you need
That's true.
This
you
is
That's
need
true.
you need someone that's gonna be able to go like you know what they do
To cross over, Jaime. To
when
cross over.
you see what happens when they bring in
you just need to
these
make the highlights, dude. Just make the
like
highlights.
look
and
at
that's it.
Ibra. Ibra was on all these night shows, like the late shows, and it's Ibra, right? He's over here like
Exactly.
Yeah.
you people love that fucking shit, right? You had you had Beckham, Spice Boy, whatever. People knew him. You bring in Messi, he's gonna be very quiet. He's gonna be to himself. He's not gonna be able to go on these talk shows and talk about. No, you need someone like Ronaldo. You need someone like it would be more impressive if they could convince someone like Haaland or Mbappe to do that in their prime of their career. It's not gonna happen though. But MLS and Messi, it's not gonna work.
And
yeah.
Joel, come on, man. Back in the day when they seen him in the stadium, they probably thought he was like Tarzan or something.
Dude, oh man.
But
Yeah, the
you
fact
gotta
you're trying
keep
to pitch in to bring Messi, it isn't going to happen because, like Ricardo said, it's just one entity, and you got to be able to compete against each other to become a top five league.
Yeah.
their MLS is all for one and one for all. We're all best friends. The super best friend league, man. They're never gonna have storylines or true rivalries because everyone knows that everyone's getting paid by the same guy and everyone's interests are the same. When Seattle beat Pumas, MLS won, not Seattle, MLS. And when Pumas lost, not Liga MX.
Read,
That's the
read,
difference.
read. I've
I was,
check just really quick
yeah.
when the first Argentine team to win the Libertadores, they all celebrated.
I bet they did.
I think it was Independiente, I believe.
And I'm sure when Once Caldas won that, they celebrated too. But
Yes.
how is that not different from multi-ownership in Mexico, right? Because we have that problem too.
So do you celebrate when America wins, Jaime?
No, I'm just saying like if Leon wins or Pachuca wins, they both win, right? Same thing with who else is owned by the same person, Atlas and Santos, right? So I mean, we have some of that in Liga MX too.
some, but not the entire league as
Yeah.
a one big orgy group ownership. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. We're at the 2 hour mark, but I did want to ask you guys a question before we sign off today. So, baseball season just came back on, and they've made some implementations to get the young fans to to watch the games because they've been complaining about how long they are, and they're trying to make it exciting again. So, they added a pitch timer, 15 seconds between pitches. They made the bases bigger. They're preventing all these things to see more action. If a game goes to extra innings, they already put a runner on second base. So they're I'm actually very surprised how willing they're changing the game to appeal to like the fans and to your average consumers. My question to you guys is, what would you like to see change in the world of football if you could change one thing to make it more exciting or to speed up the game?
I would add more cambios. I don't like the three cambios. At least 5 or 6.
I mean,
Are-
they did like
Aren't they already
5.
like at 5?
Yeah, we're at
They
5
are
now.
already.
Man, they've been at 5
Even
like
at
for 2 years.
international.
Well, hasn't
Damn.
watched the game since before COVID, bro.
That's just not. I don't pay that. I'm going blind, dude. Wait,
I
even
would
even
add
in
two things.
DMX?
Huh?
Go on, Hua.
No, no. I said, are they doing that in DMX also? Like
Yeah, the thing has been like the whole game like for the last 2 years.
Yeah.
shit, man.
You didn't see the
Yeah,
World
me
Cup
voy.
making them 5
Yeah.
subs?
Yeah, me voy. I thought it was
Ya me
just for
voy.
that.
Ya me voy.
Not a nice time for me to hang my boots. Okay.
Ricardo, you said you had 2 things?
Well, you were saying to promote Liga MX or soccer as a whole.
To make it more exciting.
Both.
My points were more geared towards Liga MX.
Okay.
But one thing I would add is also another point that Ron Kron mentioned a while back. The about NFL, how it has all that film. Like no one promotes their league better
Oh yeah.
than the
Yeah.
NFL.
Yep.
Even
Dude,
the
and the
the
music.
Hard Knocks, all these shows, the pregame shows, the postgame shows, Thursday Night Football, they're unmatched in that. I think Liga MX could probably benefit from maybe a little bit of that. Because these Mexican owners, they're lazy. They're rich, but they're lazy bastards. They don't like doing. They want all the promoters. They want like that scumbag, the Azteca owner. He wants everyone. I'm paying you, so you should be doing. You should be winning and doing everything that you're supposed to do, right? And sports usually doesn't work that way.
I
And
think Cleo or something tried doing something like that, but I don't think they had access to everything like the way NFL films did. Like you would have to have access to a lot of footage. I don't know if Cleo was from Televisa though, but I think they tried doing something like that. But I'm with you 100% about that, and it should come from the league.
But
and
Ricardo, that
and
goes
that would
against
be
your point of being one entity, though. The reason they're being able to do that is because one entity, one TV package, and they're able to get behind the scenes on every single club. They don't got to go from Fox Deportes to ESPN to Televisa
Exactly.
to
Yeah.
Azteca. So you
well,
would
it's
need to
more the TV
sacrifice
deal,
that,
man.
though. What is that?
I would put that down more as the as a network that has the rights doing that. Not so much the teams. I know what you're trying to say, but you're not gonna one up me on this, man.
No, I'm not trying to
What?
one up you. I'm
Who's
just saying
trying
that
out one?
all the owners who need to come together and have one TV package, and that will bring you closer to being a one entity.
Yeah, all right, but MLS is still shit at me, man. All right, no, but and my second point, my second thing that I would change. I know it might be you guys might disagree, but personally, I got nephews and I got sobrin and well, yeah, I got nephews. I don't, I'm not a dad yet, but they get bored with soccer very easily, man.
Yep.
They're not like me and you guys. Like, I don't know about you guys, but sometimes I watch some of these games. Not even Liga MX. Some of these La Liga games, some of these Libertadores games, because I still watch Libertadores, and a lot of these games they're hard to sit through.
Mm-hmm.
I would propose a shot clock at each end. I'm serious, man.
And what would that
You,
look like?
they need to stop allowing so much defensive football, man.
Okay.
So much bunkering. You eventually, if you're gonna play this game, you have to score. If not, what do you like? You're trying to be USA bunker ball, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like for instance, I'll give you an example. Back in the day in boxing, like I'm talking about way back in the day, like in the 20s, 30s, that era. If a ref, like if you watch some of these boxing matches right now too, they're boring as hell, man. I'd fall asleep. But back in the day, if a ref saw that you weren't throwing enough punches, or you guys, or people were just circling each other or hugging too much,
Yeah.
he'd end the fight right there.
Yep.
People are paying for a product to be entertained, not for just. I get a team is trying to win and trying to make, and it's a business. The more you win, the more you advance, the more money you make. The bigger your team is, right? But you also have to entertain, man. Like these people are paying money, you know.
I
I
agree.
would agree with that in Liga MX. I wouldn't agree with it in the global game. Like for example, if I'm Everton and I'm playing Liverpool, if that 1 point draw keeps me out of relegation, I'm going for the draw. I might not even attack. I might counter 1 or 2 times. So now you're kind of forcing the underdogs to attack, and you kind of get rid of the underdog. But in leagues like MLS and Liga MX, where there's no relegation, then yeah, go ahead, do it.
I guess my question is like, how would you be able to force a team to attack? If like, how do you make a rule that would force them? Hey, you can't be in your own half. Like, I don't know. It'd be kind of weird to implement. What do you guys think about like shortening the games? Do you think that would maybe increase the intensity, or would do the opposite?
Yeah, I think it would. I do think it would, because they could maintain a rhythm, you know, or a high rhythm, not get tired and be like,
Because
you know.
over the weekend, I noticed that referees in Liga MX were starting to get a little bit more generous with the stoppage time. A lot of matches got 8 minutes, got 10 minutes. And it was something that was kind of mentioned about how in Qatar and the World Cup, like they were very generous with their stoppage time. And obviously, like the late drama ended up having a lot of upsets and a lot of last minute goals. So, yeah.
Argentina.
Yeah, exactly. What I would like to implement in the world of football, look, we finally got video assistance review. I'm not a big fan of it, to be honest. A lot of the times, these goals are celebrated, or and then there's just that awkward waiting time between like the referee. He's not even looking at the video anymore. He's just waiting for them to whisper in his ear and say, "Yeah, this is allowed," or "This is disallowed." It's like really ruining the game in that fashion. Like, I'm not a big fan of it. One thing that I'm also not a big fan of is with the offside rule. I think we need to be a little bit more lenient on the offside rule. Now with video and technology, they're looking at like if your cuticle's offside or if your fingernail's offside. It's like too insane, bro. I think they need to change the rule where like 50% of your body needs to be like offside to be considered
Yeah.
offside. Like it needs to be like a majority of your body to be considered an advantage. Like if I happen to have a toe outside the line, that's not an advantage, bro. That goal should stand. It needs to be a substantial amount of evidence to be like, all right, dude, like you clearly had an advantage on that ball. This is offside, right? But to be that meticulous and to measure it and to have all these angles and fuck that, dude. Like just play the fucking game.
I agree with you, Jaime. I wouldn't mind like 35-minute halves, and then like you said, not so anal about the offside. You would
And
have
no
to have like
draws.
No draws.
I think every
so what
game should go to
penalties
PK,
or
man.
what?
Every game. Enough of this draw crap, man.
There was that joke from Ted Lasso. Like, I think if you ended a game in a draw in America, like that would start like a riot. It just doesn't happen. I another thing too, if you really wanted to spice it up, especially with like the penalty kicks, this might be an unpopular opinion, but I do like the way MLS had their shootouts back in the day. I would love to see that because I'm tired of these stupid run ups and all these fake, stutter steps and feints. And no, fuck that, dude. Like, let's do a shootout like how we used to do in training, like one on one with the goalkeeper. You get to dribble past them and shit. Like, let's see your skills. I would love to see that.
For sure.
I saw Hugo Sanchez do a really, really crazy shootout when he played for the Dallas Burn. He
Oh
um
wow.
he dribbled the ball. You could probably find it on YouTube, but he just like flipped the ball up, and then he was kind of like walking while like bouncing it on his foot, and then he just shot it. It looked like he was training. It didn't even look like he was
Did he did he did he pass himself a chilena?
no, he should have though. I think that would be allowed.
And you know what? Let's bring hockey rules
He
into
just
this. At any given
putazos.
point, just be able to fight someone. Just like fuck it up, dude. I would
You
love hockey
you.
rules, dude.
I think if you had hockey rules in Mexico, then since they're good at boxing,
Yeah.
you got some dudes just to be enforcers.
And
Hey,
the
Jaime,
huh.
now that you mentioned that, I gotta call out your goats, man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
About what?
How come they were acting all tough against little bitty Atlas, but when America was spanking that ass, they didn't do anything?
Hey
No
man,
I
celebration.
agree.
I
Hey,
talked
I'm on
about
your
it.
side.
We talked about it on the last
Bear,
episode. You weren't here, but yeah, someone should have whooped that ass when he did that celebration, and no one stepped up, dude.
Nene Beltran pissed me off. I mean, he's a pecho frio. I've been saying he's like a Charlie Rodriguez. They both are average. But Nene Beltran said, yeah, we didn't like it. Le pudimos ver una patada, pero una patada no va a hacer nada. No va a cambiar el marcador. And I was like, what? What do you mean? Do
I think
something, man.
Vucetich agrees with you.
Show some intensity. You're
Yeah,
already
dude.
losing 4-0. Go up and kick them, get a red card. At least
Yeah,
get the
dude.
fans going. Show them that you're embarrassed by the result. It don't matter. Do
Yeah,
something. Don't like sit there on your podcast jacking each other off of how you respect each other, and then Heavy Martin comes and jacks all over you, and you just take it.
oh snap.
Yeah,
Like
Yeah,
that
we
was embarrassing. Do
that was
something. Punch
embarrassing.
him, kick him.
It's like,
But if there is something I would change, and when I say I would change, I mean this in two ways. If you would have asked me this 5 years ago, I would have said, no, you're crazy. Don't change the game. The game is perfect. But now that I do have a son and I do see my son cannot stay focused on the game whatsoever, I realize I'm not going to be around, so it's going to become his game. So if they change the rules now where he grows up with it, I'd be okay with it. And one of those things I would do, I would introduce like a blue card, and you could use it like
a
or
blue card.
whatever color card, but you introduce it in moments such as like flopping or where it's a foul, but not like hard enough to be a yellow, like a stupid foul, where that player has to step out like 5 minutes. So now you get like that one player advantage,
Oh, that would
like
be
and
hockey.
interesting.
then when that player comes back in, the next foul gets a yellow, and then the foul after that, unless it's a hard foul, then it's the red. But that way, you could be handing out like blue cards with handing yellows, and you create that imbalance. Same thing. If a player
Yo,
goes down, he has to go out for at least like
that's a
3 minutes or
penalty,
something.
like a penalty box, like in
Yeah,
hockey.
because if you're down and you're hurt and you're like flopping on the ground and rolling around because you're hurt, well, you shouldn't be on the field. Out for 3 minutes and come back after 3 minutes,
that's a
or
really
have
good
the team
idea.
change.
I like it. I like it.
Damn,
So
that's a great idea.
and what would happen with that? The reason kids aren't entertained is because they're on their phone all the time, and they scroll through 10
Yeah,
videos in 5 seconds and
yep.
see 10 different things. They want that constant action back and forth. So I would do things like that that consistently like switches up the game, and then so yeah, players out for flopping, players out for fouls that shouldn't be yellows or red. I don't know about the penalty one. I'm still not for it. But anything else outside of that, maybe if you get a certain amount of yellows, you have like you lose like a sub or something.
Mm.
So now your team's more worn out and the other team's
Mm,
more aggressive.
that's
I
another
don't
good
know.
one. That
Like, I don't know, but I would do things like that, that consistently switch it up throughout the 90 minutes. And no, yeah, I would drop it from 45 or 35.
Yeah. I do like the idea of getting punished for time wasting. I think that's like ironic and I love that, you know? That would be interesting, like a penalty box like they do in hockey. Yeah, that would be fucking dope, dude.
yeah, I like that. Just maybe not blue, like hot pink or something.
Hot pink. It'd be the black card.
No, I don't know. I guess blue could work.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that's a really good idea.
I mentioned it before. I would also love the idea of being able to get subbed out, but then come back in the game.
Hmm.
That would.
But how would that work?
Well, I mean, you sacrifice 2 subs, but you know you're able to bring your player back.
Oh, okay, it will count as another sub.
Yeah. Like you take like a guy who's really good at scoring free kicks, and that's all he's good at doing. Kind of like a designated hitter in baseball. All right, bro, we're gonna bring you in for this shit. And then after that, all right, take him out, you can relax. We'll bring you in the second half or something. I don't know. Especially for like penalty kicks and stuff. Like at the end of the match, like you want to have like I don't know your captain, but he's like so tired, so you sub him out and then you put him in the last like I don't know 5-10 minutes of the match. I think that would dramatically change the strategy if you
Oh
could.
Yeah,
yeah.
that
Speaking of
would that
penalty
would be
kicks,
good.
that's the other thing I would do. Every match that ends in a draw has to go straight to penalty kicks, and the other team gets an extra point.
An extra. What do you mean extra point?
So, like, if it ends draw, both of them get 1 point, but the one that wins the penalty gets 2.
Oh, I see.
The one that wins should get 2, and the other one shouldn't get anything, man.
Or that too, whatever. But 2 or
Just
both. I mean,
wins or losses.
yeah, just 3 and 2s, no ones, just 3 2s and 0s. But something, yeah, anything that ends in a draw goes to penalties. So it kind of forces your ass to try to win during the regular game.
Yeah.
Because if you lose in the penalties, you still lose the points.
Yeah, that'd be fair. I will say though, I think eventually the game is gonna have to change. I mean, you're seeing other sports.
Yeah, it has been.
Yeah, I mean it's been changing, but not that much. It hasn't been too crazy, you know.
Oh, I think
And
because you got used
honestly,
to it, Jaime. But think
with
about
the
it. At
other
one point,
sports,
there was no cards.
I mean, the other sports aren't that great. Like NFL, from like when they snap the ball to when the guy gets tackled, throughout the whole fourth quarters, you only see about 11 minutes of action.
Oh yeah, man.
The rest is like commercials, breaks, calls. It's hard for kids. Like maybe that's why they focus a little bit more because there's always something different going on, and there's a commercial every 3 minutes that they can walk away, be on their phone, and come back to when the play happens. They don't gotta be watching the whole time waiting for a play. But baseball, what's the Japanese guy for the Angels? He's supposed to be.
Shotani.
Yes, he's supposed to get like the biggest contract in baseball history coming up. They played the Athletics today. He was on the mound, starting pitcher, and the whole stadium was empty. There's probably like 5,000 people there.
I
So
mean,
to have
that's just Oakland, bro. They suck ass.
no, I mean, but that's the thing. Like baseball in itself is like dying too. They're coming up with all these rules and changes because they know they're dying. They know kids don't want to sit there. They know that shit's boring. I go to a baseball game for the first 2 innings and I leave.
Yeah, baseball is or they call it America's pastime, and once these boomers die, bro, like I don't see the next gen like maintaining that tradition. And I'm sure it's lost a lot of viewership and attendance and all that, and COVID didn't help that either. And you are seeing other sports like pick up steam, like the NBA, the NFL, and honestly, soccer too. Soccer's gotten a lot of popularity over the last couple of years. I think a lot of it thanks to FIFA. Honestly, like the video game. I think a lot of young heads they play FIFA, which is crazy, right? Because like when I was growing up, no one played FIFA, bro. Only like the Mexicans and like the people that are really obsessed with soccer. But no one went to the store and said, "I can't wait to play FIFA." Now it's a huge fucking thing, and there's like a lot of streamers and all that. So I think that's kind of helped um, bring popularity in the United States.
Yeah, and the
Yeah,
World Cup
no,
helps too. Just like how the World Baseball Classic made a lot of Mexicans like tune into baseball because it's like a national team pride. The World Cup helps a lot too with globalization. That now you have all these people that their friends are into soccer, and then it's the World Cup time, and they see the whole world gets excited.
Yeah.
So now they're interested in watching club level, league level, things like that. But the streaming thing is also killing the sports because I like tend to bet on sports here and there. And I was trying to watch the baseball game I bet on, and I was like, "Oh shit, you need MLB TV for this?" And then I saw it was like $30 a month. And
Yeah.
I'm like, well, how do you expect me to become a fan or my son to become a fan of baseball? Because I'm never gonna buy no MLB TV for $30 a month. Where's he gonna watch the games?
Yeah.
But you pay for MLS.
It comes with a season ticket.
Oh, okay.
No, but even that MLS, their Apple TV, they might be pulling from it because they only hit 40% of
Yeah.
projected numbers.
Really
And
bad.
I'm looking for the thing right here. So look, with Paramount, you get like Serie A, UCL, Europa, Brasileiro, a bunch of other things. With Peacock, you get Premier League. ESPN
And
Plus, you
Chivas.
get yeah, and Chivas. ESPN Plus, you get La Liga, Bundesliga, Dutch League, Liga MX,
FA Cup.
FA Cup, Copa del Rey.
Hmm.
All those combined are $5 more than MLS alone.
Yeah. No, it's insane to expect people to adopt something and then just put a paywall over it. It's just like, dude, like, what the hell? Like, we're not gonna watch this shit, and we're definitely not gonna watch it if we gotta pay for it.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's
As you said that, Jaime,
huh.
Joel, right when you said that, Joel has his fist uh clumped up like Arthur.
oh man, no, come on.
For sure, folks. Well, that's
Hey, but
what's up.
before you go, Jaime,
Yeah.
if you'd allow me, I'd like to
Go
give
ahead.
some props to two young Mexican kids
Oh.
because I heard you guys talking about how there's no pool of Mexican players, and I guess you're right. But if you watch more of these games, you'd see there's some that do stick out a little bit.
Yeah. Who?
One, and I know it's just a game, David Ochoa for San Luis,
Ah,
the
no
goalkeeper.
mames, way.
He looked good, Jaime. He looked good. Even for a half,
Bro.
he looked pretty
Mazatlan
good.
makes anyone look good. Stop it.
But we're going to have to wait and see. But one who I'm really high on is the Atlas kid, El Kalimba Jr. That black kid, Ociel
Marquez?
Herrera,
Oh, Herrera.
the guy that scored on you with the header, on Chivas with the header.
Yeah.
That guy's been progressing very nicely throughout the years. When he was with the Bicampeonato, when Atlas was winning the Bicampeonato
Mm-hmm.
in the two tournaments, Coca would put him in here and there, and even then he'd produce a little bit. He'd he'd provide some offense for the team. But now that he's starting for Atlas, I think they should really keep that guy in account for
Oh,
the national team.
and then we're speaking of like
is he
promising guys.
Mexican?
I just
Yeah.
want to bring another one up to your name. You guys remember Shair Mohamed, Turco Mohamed's son?
Yeah,
Uh,
he's
he
in
he got minutes against America. I think he got like a red card like right away, like within a minute. Now he is Pumas assistant coach. So you want a new Mexico coach? There you go.
Oh my God.
Yeah, Turco made him an assistant coach. He's 23 years old, and Turco didn't was not at the Querétaro game, which was supposed to be his first game, because he was celebrating his birthday. So that's how he's serious. He's taking the Pumas job.
For sure, folks. Well, thank you guys for joining us tonight. Make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube and follow us on Twitter. We try to do this once a week, and we have some pretty exciting matches going over the weekend. So we'll be back probably on another Tuesday. But for night, hope everyone has a great night. And of course, we'll catch you in the next one.